Good afternoon. This is Anders Mikkelsen, and we're going live today to talk about variance reports. And this will be a workshop. We're just going to talk about some of the things I've learned in terms of helping people with managing IT vendor spending. And specifically, we're going to talk about things relating to the big bills people get all the time from companies like AT&T and Lumen and Verizon. So I'm just going to wait for a few more people to show up. I'll see if I can see who's come up online at the moment. And hope everyone's having a great day today. It's gorgeous here in northern New Jersey and should be in the low 80s. Should be great weather outside. And yeah, I hope everyone's enjoying their summer. Yeah, please put in the chat where you're coming from. So I think I'll give it another few minutes. And yeah, one of the things I'm interested in talking about today is one of the AI. I used AI to create a new workflow to automate some of these processes, and so I'm going to be sharing some of that. But that's been pretty interesting, getting it more into using tools to build things, and it's been pretty helpful in terms of creating additional, I guess, apps and workflows and adding things onto my website. And when things go wrong, that does a good job of providing the tech support and sorting out what the problems are. So that's going well. Fantastic. So Craig Cook from Nashville, a place I have not actually been in ages, if at all. Must be great there this time of year. Let's see. Good. And now the comments are showing up. Fantastic. Okay, this is great. I'll give it another 3 more minutes for some more people to show up. But yeah, I don't know if you guys have been using AI for anything particularly helpful. I found it definitely helpful on an individual basis to automate a lot of different things. So that's been pretty nice. Partly automating infographics has been pretty neat. Also creating scripts and basic software is good. I'm not a real software developer, but it's been nice that I'm able to create workarounds for myself. Yeah, so one of the reasons why I'm doing this today is I figured I would just talk about some basic things which people can do, which can be helpful. I think variance reports, this is going to really tie into something which everybody deals with all the time, which is, you get these big bills every month, and what do you do with them? What's an efficient way to determine if you should do anything with them, if there's anything to worry about, or if you can just go back to doing your real job. And so I'm just going to share some of the things I've learned working with over 100 different companies, and some things that could be efficient and hopefully save you guys some time. Well, I think I'll go ahead and get started. Started already making the introduction. So today we'll talk about variance reports, and the idea is with a variance report, you can catch every change on your AT&T, Verizon, and Lumen bills before it costs you another month. And this is I think something people might want to do instinctively. They'd look at the original bill they got from last month, and then they look at the new bill, and maybe they compare the changes and so on. But we're going to talk about how this can be done in a more systematic fashion, and I think this will be really effective for people. So let's see if we can move on to the next screen. Okay, fantastic. My setup's working. So the problem is that every month your vendors can quietly change your bill. Now, they don't always change it, but in my experience, they probably are at least putting in some minor changes every month. And so new charges can appear. That's a big one, right? So there are added services, there are new fees, or there are price increases, and your vendors like AT&T and Verizon, they're not going to send you usually often a notification telling you what happened. They just expect you to read your bill and notice that something has changed, even if they're not super explicit about it. And then also prices can drift upward. That's the downside. Sometimes there's downward drift, and that's good. And that's, I guess, not something you have to worry about, but it also is probably a good thing to know that it's happening, especially if it's canceling out upward drift, which shouldn't be happening. So price is going to change on things, and these are services you've already approved, but you might not necessarily know that the rates are changed. And then this is especially going to be problematic when it comes to surcharges and taxes, because a lot of these vendors have their own interpretations of what the taxes and surcharges can be, and they feel that they have the right to basically come up with any taxes and surcharges they want and calculate them however they want and add onto them however they want. And by taxes and surcharges, I mean specifically surcharges, but they want you to think that their surcharges are similar to a tax and are just imposed by the government somehow, but that's not really the truth. And if you don't know what they're doing, then you won't notice what they're doing. You can't call them out on it. And then another big thing is that you would see something like removed services linger. So services that you thought you disconnected last year can keep appearing on invoices. So this is another, this is, I guess, the opposite of a change, but it's important because you thought you changed the bill, but they haven't changed it. And it's good to know you would like to know, hey, every month, did those changes, which I thought I ordered, did they get done? Most people assume like, oh yeah, I placed the orders. So when I get my 10 Lumen bills, Lumen will have removed all those services from that old headquarters I shut down and turned on the services at the new one. But if you're not seeing those changes, then it's very easy for them to keep billing you. So with the variance report, you can identify this. So let's go on to the next slide. Okay, so this is what I consider the real problem. An invoice level review won't catch service level errors in the compound. And I'm going to try to give a graphical illustration of this, but an invoice level review might look something like, here's our total bill, it's $50,000. It was up for $245 from next month. Okay, it looks fine, let's approve it. Maybe even look at some of the first couple pages. It looks basically the same. I mean, you're kind of like, I don't know, I guess it's fine. I'll go ahead and approve it. What am I going to do? I don't have 8 hours to spend trying to look for something. Now, a service level review would be something where every charge is tied to an active service, a contract rate, and an approval. And then you might, when there's a service level review, you might find that there are a bunch of errors. And so you can see here how errors can compound. Let's say that they have a $500 error in the first month and another $300 error in the second month and a $400 error in the third month. It just compounds. And all of a sudden you have a whole bunch of errors by month 6. Now, this might sound exaggerated, and it probably is if you're talking about a small bill, but if you're looking at dozens or hundreds of services which you're buying every month, it's actually not that crazy to think that there might be one error every month. If you have 100 services, it's like 1% of the time something goes wrong, and that accumulates over 12 months to 12 errors. So it can really add up. And let's try to give another example here. Invoice level review versus service level review. So, do you just approve the whole bill when you go to the grocery store? Maybe you do. I know some people who they don't really think about how much groceries cost. They just pay it. They're happy to pay it. But you just look at it and you say, okay, here's the $438.52. There's the subtotal taxes, fees. Okay, yeah, that makes sense. Okay, I'll approve that. That's kind of what I budgeted, kind of what I assumed I would pay for groceries. Yeah, I'm fine with that. Or do you check that they rang up each item correctly? Now, if depending on the grocery store, which choice you have, which choice you make might depend on the grocery store you go to. So in this example, you can see how, they double bill you for coffee and they bill you like $3 extra for your almonds. And, in other scenarios, it might be like, well, maybe they bring up something which you didn't even which you didn't even have in your cart in the first place. And so if you go to that kind of grocery store where they make mistakes all the time, you're probably going to want to check your bill. And I know I often do that when I go to the store. I scan every single item, and I'm like, oh yeah, is this what I thought? I'm like, oh no, actually, I don't remember this being that expensive when I picked it out. I can do it in my head, and that's fine, because I'm only buying. I'm not even buying $438 worth of groceries. Buying a lot less usually. But this is harder to do in your head when you have lots of receipts and you can't even see the cart, as it were. So we'll talk about variance reports and how this can be like a helpful workaround. Okay. So variance report is a line-by-line comparison of this month's bill versus last month's. And I apologize, my computer's acting strange. So without a variance report, bills are reviewed against the budget and not line by line against last month. But new charges often blend into the total, and price drift can go undetected for months or years. And no one's usually available to ask, did we approve each of these individual charges? And then with a variance report, so that way every charge can be flagged immediately, and new charges can be documented, and price changes are challenged before they compound, and you can defend every new dollar on the bill, because we're going to identify every change on the bill. So every change can be managed going forward. So you could say it's a change management system, right? So my suggestion is that every time you have a variance and you see a variance between one bill and the next bill, I would ask 3 questions. And I would do this every month. This is what I've seen is effective to help people keep long-term control over their recurring expenses. And this applies to anything. I mean, it applies to cloud software as a service. It applies to complex services spends in non-IT areas like insurance, payments, etc. So with every variance, every change, you want to identify, like, well, what changed? What exactly was the thing that changed on the bill? What was added? What was removed? What price shifted? And you want to make sure that nothing is hidden in the total. And then you'd want to validate or evaluate every single charge and ask, is there a good reason for this change? Is there a good reason to validate every variance? So was there a new circuit? Did we actually ask for a new circuit? Did we approve a rate increase, agree to a rate increase? Did we agree to have a new service added? And so hopefully there's some sort of document explanation before it's accepted. That's actually what I would recommend is actually that would be wise in a lot of ways, and could be helpful long-term with AI. It's just to take notes every month and say, this is what changed in our bill, and then also have maybe a sheet ahead of time saying this is what we're expecting to see changed in our bill. This is a list of all the changes we're expecting. And if you guys have inventories, which I know a lot of people don't, but if you do have inventories, that can be extremely valuable place to put all this information. And if you want to learn more about inventories, please reach out to me, and we have. I have some videos, and also my book, Principles of Telecom Expense Management, go into the details of that. And then the big question would then be, did we authorize this? And, just confirm, like, yeah, this is, what we expected. This is what we authorized. And, if there's a change we didn't authorize, then you need to call the vendor out on what they're doing and just be like, hey, we don't remember agreeing to this. Can you remind me what this is all about? It's going to be hard for me to pay the bill with this on it. And also you want to do this in writing, by the way, because AT&T and Verizon, they often don't honor stuff which isn't in writing. So even, as nice as your account rep is, they don't have a lot of power at a certain point when AT&T management feels like the bill isn't being paid, and they don't have a good explanation for why there's a variance between how much you've paid and what the bill says. So you definitely want to have all these things in writing. Okay. So a little bit more on why it matters. So bills drift, and in my opinion, most teams have better things to do than catch it. So instead of taking two pieces of paper or two screens and looking back and forth, I think most teams have better things to do. But the problem than doing that. But the problem is that vendors do add charges to the bills, and these small changes do accumulate, and they do add up over time. And so bills do drift out of alignment with contracts and the original plan. I mean, I have seen billing errors routinely go unnoticed anywhere from 1 to 10 years. One of the biggest problems I saw, well, actually, this wasn't even an error, but one of the biggest things I saw was hundreds of thousands of dollars being left in I guess it's a client error, hundreds of thousands of dollars continuing to be billed at a data center a client had moved out of, and they had moved out 18 months before, and they had plenty of time to catch it. And then when another client or another client scenario, a client had moved headquarters, and Lumen had only disconnected part of a bunch of circuits at their headquarters. They disconnected the headquarters side, but they hadn't disconnected the other side of a lot of point-to-points. And this was undetected by the IT team. And fortunately, we were there to detect it very promptly. So they were able to ask for refunds immediately. So there was not an 18-month delay. But as far as we know, that could have gone on for many years without anyone noticing. And so every new charge should definitely be linked to an internal approval, like a project, a purchase order, decision by management to buy something or upgrade something. And even correct charges can be billed at the wrong rate. So, it could be something you did order, but, they could have entered the pricing in wrong. They could have forgotten to put in a discount. And people do make these genuine mistakes all the time. So I don't want to make this sound like I'm being cynical. But I think we've seen it all the time with telecom billing, that they don't always do it quite right, and so this needs to be verified. And also sometimes things come off contract, or something happens, they sort of flip a switch, and so a $500 a month unauthorized change is not caught for 24 months. That's $12,000 gone, and a variance reports stop at month 1. So I think some people are doing this, but I think it's not always very clear how to do this, and I think it's not always obvious how to get it from the vendor portals and get a good report. And it depends on who your vendor is and who you're working with. So that's why we're creating an automated tool which you can use to make these, and you can also create your own automated tools as well. You don't have to use ours. And you can also add to do like a comparison between two PDFs automatically to tell you what's changed. And you can also download billing data as well and do an automated report. So there are two ways I recommend using variance reports, and you can pick the one that fits where you are. One is you can call monthly drift detection, where given where you're at, you just want to run the tool every month, or maybe every time you get a bill and it looks a little suspicious to you. Maybe some of your bills you don't really need to check because there's not really a whole lot to them. But you can run the monthly drift detection, run the tool every month, and you can say, okay, I want to compare this invoice to last month, or maybe even who knows, maybe you want to compare it to an invoice from a year ago and see what's changed. That might come up with some interesting results too. And then every change can then be flagged and require a reason. And then new charges can be approved or challenged, and you can talk to the vendor about it. And I think this is good for staying on top of ongoing changes without a major upfront project. So this is something you can just run every month. And then another one would be a baseline plus variance. So this is where you want to start with a clean slate or a baseline, a firm foundation of. So what you want to do is you want to validate and approve every charge on, I guess, the last month's bills. And you want to create basically an inventory and basically say, okay, I've gone through every single charge let's say you start now. And I'm going to go through all my June bills. I'm going to double check, not just the services, but every single little line item. I'm going to say, okay, I know what these are all for. these are all contractually correct. I've asked, at least 3 different questions, probably a lot more than that, about every single little charge. And I know this is what a good clean bill looks like. So then the next step would be, after that, you have to do your variance report, and it shows you what's changed from that approved baseline. And I think this is more powerful because you're comparing to a known good bill, not just last month. And what happens is that things can get grandfathered in if you just use the monthly drift detection. So at least nothing new will get grandfathered in, but you want to start with a clean baseline. It's also called like zero-based budgeting. And so in both workflows, I think you should keep a running list of the expected changes each month. So you can have maybe a notepad somewhere just saying, oh, these are all the changes we made to our network. Do these show up in our bills? And maybe you even know what bills to look at. I know this can be complicated, though, if you don't have an inventory, because you can have 10 different bills from just one vendor. And who knows which office is in which if you don't keep an inventory. So and that's one of the things we do for our clients. That's our first step, is we just create an inventory for you, so you don't have to deal with all that. And we know exactly where everything should appear. And then when things start to move around, which sometimes they do, we know where everything moved around from, and then we can update the inventory. So keep a running list of expected changes, and then you can use AI to cross-check what was planned against what actually appear. And so that's really helpful. And you could even use AI in theory to, say, hey, this is like an email I sent my vendor. Can you check to see if these changes are made? I'm not saying it's going to be 100% accurate, though, but it can help speed up the process for sure. It could sort of do an initial assessment, but without probably having to do a lot of work. So we built an AI that does the variance work for you, and it does it automatically. And so you just upload your current invoice and your prior invoice. And so in minutes, you would get a Word report and an Excel file. And so the Word report just give you plain English narrative of every variance. It'll give you an executive report saying these are the big changes, and then it'll tell you by category, these were the big changes in each category. It's currently sorted by the size of the change. But you can also use the Excel file, and you can just use the data there, and you can sort it however you want. And you can do it by location, account number, sub-account number, type, whatever it is. You can filter the data to your heart's content. So it's pretty easy to do. Okay, I've got a couple more slides here, and then hopefully this will be a good listen. And hopefully I did it in the right order, because in some ways I feel like now we're talking about what would a variance report actually look like without. You can run ours to see what we recommend. It's very detailed, but here's sort of a dumbed down version of one slide, which is go into Excel. You can have your variance report, and you can say, oh, okay, we have this DDoS in site A, and there was a delta of $85, and then you could write down the status, like I queried it, I queried it with a vendor, and then you could see, oh, okay, this is something, it's a zero change, so it's kind of automatically approved, wouldn't show up in the variance report. But if you wanted to, you could also update it to have a list of all the things that shouldn't change as well, so you can see what's in each location. Then you could do a SIP trunk, that's been removed, and you could write down, oh, that's removed. That is something we want done. I remember placing that order, and then you could be like, oh, okay, well, these are all these new charges. And hey, maybe I bought, $210 worth of, or 210 different toll-free numbers for, some marketing campaign, who knows. And then, there's this compliance fee, which went up by $66. Okay, well, I'm going to ask the vendor, what's that all about? So, and then you could have a variance report in Word, which says, there were 4 variances flagged this month, and 1 new charge requires approval, 3 items query with your vendor, and there's the total monthly delta. And then we have here the something which is flagged, and there's 210 toll-free storage numbers of storage. You should get a full inventory from the vendor before approving this. And then it also, there's this rate anomaly and the DDoS, check for a contract event. Maybe something changed in the contract. Maybe you got an automatic increase or went off contract, etc. So now instead of having all these different pages and all these different billing line items, now you have a very short list of what you need to check. That's what the time savings is, right? Here's a short list of what you need to look into instead of, and that's what a variance report will do. It'll show you okay, well, this is what's changed. So this is what you need to look into, assuming that last month's bill was good. That's obviously a very dangerous assumption for most organizations. But at least, you'll know what's been changing under your watch. And you can go ahead and you can get us to create a baseline report and verify that everything in all your bills makes sense going forward, or you can do that yourself. I know it is very time consuming. That's why we do it for people. But yeah, feel free to reach out to us if that would be helpful. And but this variance report is completely free. If you want to see it run on your bill, you can just go to berlinpacific.com/variance and we'll run it at no cost. Most of the time, it's very fast. Actually, it's only a few minutes. A lot of it's you might think it's AI, but actually a lot of it is actually programmatic and deterministic. But sometimes there are report formats which don't really work. So we'll definitely get back to you. And if anything fails, we'll go ahead and do that. And we could probably turn around sending it to you in a day or two, and that'll help improve our code as well. So yeah, I hope this is helpful, and I would love any questions that anybody has. And probably should have asked earlier. Please put your questions in the chat. And yeah, so that's today's lesson, as it were, today's workshop. So, and also if anyone has any thoughts on what would be other helpful workshops, please let me know. I'd love to help. And let's see, what would be some other things to mention. Let's go ahead and go back while I'm waiting for some questions and see if there's anything which stands out, maybe something I didn't talk about that much. Hopefully it's kind of clear what a variance report might include. Yeah, what is this analogy has been helpful for people as well to see kind of the difference between like a service level review and an invoice level review. And in a lot of ways, actually, it's technically it's a billing item review. Oh, I got a question. So let's say we already have a finance team reviewing invoices every month. How is this different from what they're already doing? Well, it definitely depends on your finance team. I would definitely ask them to do that. But what I've seen a lot of times is that usually what people are doing is they look at the total. They're like, okay, this is kind of similar to last month. But it's not really clear how they know that the individual items are correct, using the shopping cart analogy. So I guess part of it would be they might even have the list, but how they know it's in the actual shopping cart. So, that's part of the problem is most times people don't have an inventory or some sort of representation of what's in the shopping cart and what they're actually purchasing. And they can't verify every single charge and look out and say, okay, does this actually exist? Has anyone validated this in the last year or so? That especially if it's like, hey, we buy, according to our receipts, our grocery store receipts, we buy 2 things of coffee grounds every month, and then it's like, okay, well, but did we actually take delivery of 2 coffee grounds every time we go shopping, or do we just get one thing of coffee grounds in the actual cart. And that's kind of what you have to verify. So I think that's one of the big differences is a lot of times people don't have that. They might say, oh, okay, yeah, we remember contracting to, pay $8 a month for coffee or whatever, but we don't actually know if we took delivery of the coffee. Oh, okay, this is an interesting question. What happens when a vendor pushes back and says the charge is legitimate? How do you win that dispute? Well, it depends. I mean, is it legitimate? And how are they? I think the burden of proof is on them. So they need to show you how it's legitimate. Now, it could be that it's legitimate because they can say, using our shopping cart analogy, like, yeah, you said that you think that the price of almonds is $9.99, but actually, let's walk over here and we'll go ahead and look at the display, and on the display on the shelves, it says that almonds are $9.99. So actually, you misremembered it, that the price should be a lot lower than $9.99. Or like, here's something you signed in writing saying that, yeah, when you come to buy almonds from us, we'll always give it to you for $9.99. So that's kind of an example. Let's see, with some other vendor pushbacks. But a lot of times, just say, well, that's fine. Can you just show me how this is true? And it's the burden of proof is on them. In some cases, of course, it might be an example of you asked them to do something, but you didn't put it in writing. So unfortunately, at that point, you're kind of out of luck if they don't remember doing it, and they might just go ahead and. But at least you can put it in writing now and get them to fix it now, and then hold them accountable going forward. But it's definitely all about documentation and proof and showing things are in writing. So what are the three big types of disputes? I think the very big types of disputes would be change in prices. So show how and missing discounts, etc. So you show them what's in the contract. You say, I don't understand this. You can also say, well, show me how contracts, show me how different surcharges, et cetera, are calculated. Explain that to me because this doesn't sound familiar. Another one would be, I thought I canceled something, or I don't remember ordering this. And then you could tell them like, well, yeah, show me where I approved ordering this, or vice versa. Show them in writing, like, hey, I asked for all these things to be disconnected. Please stop billing them for me, and I want you to give me a credit. I think those are some of the big things to look for. Hope that helps, and see if there are any other questions. Okay, I'm hearing actually that there's a massive delay on this live, so I apologize. I don't know exactly what is happening. So hopefully I'm not missing out on other questions which are important to people. Let me see if I can see anything here. Yeah, usually this works really well, and I like the LinkedIn Live, and using StreamYard has seemed to work great. I guess free advertising for LinkedIn and StreamYard. So I think they're helpful, and usually everything works smoothly. Let's see. Well, I guess those are all the questions I have for today. Let's see. And I think I'll go ahead and say goodbye to everyone. These aren't supposed to be super long, but please write me, put some comments on this. If anyone has any ideas for new topics, let me know. And also I'm looking for people who might have some interesting knowledge to share around, especially around IT vendor management, especially with everything going on with AI and SaaS spend and cloud spend. Would love to talk to more people. I guess people on the live share, what are some things people need to know for 2026, which might not be obvious. So I hope this is helpful. Please use the new application, berlinpacific.com/ variance. We go there. And then we also have berlinpacific.com/validation, which does something similar but different. That's what we talked about in the last live, and it'll expose the what big telecom doesn't want you to know, what they're telling you on your bill, and it'll expose what they left off. So hope all those things are really helpful, and look forward to hearing from you guys and talking to you again soon. Hopefully we'll do another one of these in, wow, I guess it'll be July. I can't believe it's going to be July soon. All right, have a great day. Bye-bye.